another great spring game. The Aggies won, so we are now 2-0 in the spring games that I've been part of, and we're excited this summer. Thought we had a good spring. I thought we got better. I thought we improved in a lot of areas. Still a lot of work to do between now and the start of the season, but that's us and every team in the country, and so important now to kind of heal the body, rest the body, get back here for summer training and really put in a tremendous shift this summer as we head into fall camp. And so from there, I'll let you guys ask questions.
Front right, Olin.
Mike, after a spring game like that, and you have to balance who all's out there, but so how, for lack of a better word, excited should those Aggies be for what they saw from Marco Jones?
I think Marco Jones has a really bright future here. I think he's extremely athletic. I think he's got tremendous ability to rush the passer. I don't know if Aggies should expect him to have 5 sacks a game this fall. That might be a little bit of a high expectation, but he does. He's had a really good spring. He's gotten better every single practice, and obviously a lot of it is matchups, right? And so you got to take some of it with a grain of salt. But he's gonna be a really, really good football player for us.
Front left, Travis.
How would you kind of rate quarterback play today, and especially Marcel?
It's hard to say. The pockets weren't great. I thought he made some really good throws into really tight windows. I thought we did some things in the passing game that we hadn't done last year. But the internal pocket was not great today.
And is the race for backup still open heading into the fall?
Yeah, we'll talk about that internally as we come out of this thing and kind of see where we're at.
Second row on left, Alex.
Yeah, Torian gave a good quote the other day about just how Marcel has noticed the need to step up as a leader as his spotlight increases. Just how have you seen him maybe step up in a leadership way this offseason in particular?
Yeah, I think it's, the first thing you have to do as a quarterback is you have to find your own way, right? And then you have to figure out what it means to be a college quarterback, the work that goes into it, how much you have to put into it every day to be successful. And while you're figuring all of that out, it's really challenging to lead. I think that was a lot of what last year was for Marcel. It was getting the opportunity to do this for the first time, but really figuring out how much of a grind it is to be a starting quarterback in the SEC and in college football. And so now he's got that under his belt. I think he understands what it takes, and so then that gives him a better opportunity to go out and bring the wide receivers along and bring the O-line along and develop relationships and camaraderie and those types of things, which obviously is really important for your offense to be good.
Front right, Olin.
If I could ask a couple more things for you, Mike. First of all, a lot of attention was on the wide receiver transfers that came in this year, and your thoughts about them today, and is that what you expect?
Yeah, I think both those kids were really productive college football players last year. I said it when we signed Mario that he was the toughest kid some of our kids thought they played against all of last year. He's got tremendous speed, tremendous quickness, and tremendous twitch. And we had played KC when he was at NC State, and had got to see him firsthand the year I was at Duke, and so knew a lot about him. He's been a really productive player for 2 years in college football, and so I don't think it should be surprising that those two kids are going to be productive for us.
How clean was it today from your perspective?
There were, a couple things. Obviously, the interceptions weren't great. One of those you'd really love to have back. I'm trying to see the penalty numbers. Didn't seem like there were a ton of penalties on veteran guys. There were a couple, we had a couple false starts on some young guys and some of that stuff. It didn't seem like there were a ton of penalties on veteran guys, and so that was good. I think we still got to operate at a little bit of a faster tempo. I wish we would have played at a little bit faster pace, but you get a little bit nervous signaling a lot in a spring game setting where anybody can be there. And so, we tried to huddle all day to just protect some stuff. And so that kind of just slowed the pace down a little bit more than we wanted it to.
Second row on left, Tony.
Coach, similar to Olin's, bringing up the wide receivers, you guys bringing a lot of talent on the defensive line too. TJ Cersei, 2 sacks, and Dayon Hayes making his presence felt. Can you kind of talk about some of the newcomers on that line there?
Yeah, I think I think we can evaluate. I think that's probably what I would say is I think that we do have a pretty decent ability to evaluate players. And so, we felt like we added some quality players on the front. We knew we needed to because of the departures. And, we have some kids that we thought would step up, and they have. And then we knew we needed, some other veteran guys just because there was a little bit of a drop in where we were age-wise, not necessarily talent-wise, but age-wise. You go from guys who've played a lot to, freshmen. And so we wanted to try to fill in those gaps a little bit. And, I think all those guys have been really good. And the other guy that you didn't mention is Tyler Onyedem, and I think he's been really, really good all spring. And so, we're happy with the guys that we brought in here and how they're going to help.
Fifth row on the left, Parker, and then Mark.
And then just kind of going on the reverse end of that, the offensive line, what did you see out of them today? And like you said, probably could have held up protection-wise better, but what do you want to see from them moving forward?
Yeah, I think part of that was who was out there some. We had a lot of the young kids out there. Ty Thomas had to start today, and obviously that for him as a true freshman, he should be in high school right now. And, I think Trey Zune is kind of nursing a little bit, so we had to hold him. We didn't play Chase a ton just because we knew what he was. Crown's been in the cast all spring, just kind of protecting and nagging thing back from the season, and so he's not really at full strength, and so you don't really have the full force of the offensive line right now. And so I think a big part of it was just some young guys out there kind of going through it for the first time, and it'll be good learning lessons for them to see what it takes to really do this at a high level, and I think that'll kind of encourage those guys this summer.
Front right, Mark, and then Cease.
Mike, when you do have so many guys out, or you're holding them out to protect them, what do you look to get out of a spring game outside of just nobody else getting hurt?
Yeah, no, I think that's a piece of it. But no, it's quality reps for kids who need quality reps. I think if you think about this in the framework of the NFL preseason, right, because that's what a lot of our exhibitions are, that's what our spring game is. It's making sure the guys that haven't played together, the guys who haven't played in Kyle Field, the guys who are new to the schemes and systems get enough work. The young guys who need to get reps and develop get enough work. You give guys enough to stay fresh and moving along, but you want to have one eye on the fact that we do have some guys who have played an awful lot of football and know what it feels like to play in Kyle Field, know what it's like playing in these systems, and you want to be intelligent with the risks you take with those guys, because obviously those guys have a chance to be really, really good players for us and kind of established it. And so I just think if you think about it no different than an NFL preseason, it's kind of a little bit of how we handle it. Now, when you come out to practice, nobody sits out. Nobody, like when you're out at practice, that's where you're getting a lot of really good quality full speed work and development. It's when bodies start landing on the ground and people start getting rolled up on that, you just try to be a little bit intelligent with who you put out there.
Front left, Cease.
A couple of things. Seems like you have a plethora of place kickers and punters, so how are you going to keep them all happy?
Do we?
A couple long field. Couple
Oh,
punts.
yeah. Liam's big kick. I forgot that one. That was in the first half. Yeah. No, I think they're slotted into really good spots. Obviously, Tyler was a really effective punter for us last year. We have a lot of confidence in him. Randy did a really good job with the placements. He serves as a very viable backup to Tyler should we ever need that. Jared Zirkle has the ability to kick the football, but had kind of slotted into that kickoff spot, which he was really effective at last year. And then Liam is a young guy who has the ability to kick the football, a kid that we brought in, and has a bright future for us. And so I think they're all slotted kind of the right way to keep them happy.
You said the game was all about the guys. No baseball, no softball, so the crowd wasn't like it was for maybe some other spring games. So I'm wondering, did you get everything? Did you kind of like that? Do you think that's a good situation?
Yeah, you guys tried to do this to me last year. I don't really question the 12th man's ability to show up in Kyle Field. And so if people – no, I know. But I'm just saying if people had Easter plans or that's why they weren't here, I don't know. I appreciate the people that came out. I think it was a good atmosphere. Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think it impacts it one way or the other. I think the people that came out had a good time, had a good experience, and yeah.
Front right, Carter,
Nice
then we'll
try.
go to the back, TV row.
Mike, even just beyond Marco Jones, it seemed like a lot of 2025 class guys flash. Just how pleased were you with that group this whole spring? And do you feel like they're even better than maybe the recruiting rankings suggest.
Maybe 247 might have suggested.
Maybe.
Yeah, I do think they're a little better. No, I'm kidding. Of course. There's another story you guys can take and run with. No, one of the benefits I think was we got 23 of them here, right? And so that's something that we're real excited about. And I think we talk a lot about this to the guys that commit to us. I think sometimes the best players in college football have really quiet recruitments. That doesn't mean that they're not really talented players. That doesn't mean that they're not highly sought after at the time in which they commit. They're just not loud. And sometimes, and this is no disrespect to anybody, but sometimes the ones that get covered the most are the loudest ones. But those over the course of time maybe don't always work out exactly the way everyone thinks they will. And so I think maybe unheralded is probably the right way to talk about some of that stuff, but very unfair to the quality of talent that was brought in here and the quality of person that was brought in here. And when you combine those two things, and we've talked about this a lot, you wind up with a lot of NFL talent in your program, and that's ultimately the goal, right? And that's not me taking big, bold statements about it. They still got a lot of work to do and a lot of growth to make, but yeah, I think a lot of those kids are really talented football players, and their future is very bright.
Last two questions in the back.
Yeah, go ahead, Carter.
Go ahead, follow it.
Wanted to ask about another guy who's not here yet, Jerome Miles, just because of what he might be able to bring once he comes back. Just, I know he's coming back from an injury, but what do you think he will be able to bring once he's fully back?
Yeah, he was here today, so it was great to see him. He looks like he's recovering well. When you see him size-wise, right, that's that size piece that we've talked about wanting to make sure that we have. He has all of the physical characteristics to be a really good player. He's got great size. He's got great speed. He catches the ball well. He's got to transition, and he's got to come back from a knee injury. And so until we get him here, it's hard to truly, predict what that will look like for this immediate season. But I think without question, he's going to add a lot of value to our program and will be a really, really talented player for us.
Coach, back behind the lights, first to the left, Donna, and then to the right, Nicole.
Coach, I know today's kind of just a culmination of the entire spring season, so I'm sure you're not, like you said, evaluating too much today, but is there anybody throughout the course of the spring that's really surprised you?
I don't know if I would use the word surprise. I think maybe just kind of some guys that have stepped up. I think it was great to see Cassius Howell take a next step in his development. I think he's going to be a very, very disruptive edge player and really have a productive season for us. So it was really cool to see that. I think a kid like Miles Davis at safety, we've got some experienced players, but to get a Miles Davis to have a really strong spring and take a big step forward, I think that was really cool to see for him. Even a kid like E.J. Smith, who's played a lot of football and been around for a long time, I think had a really, really productive spring. I think you saw him have some flashes today and make some good plays, which was good for him to go out and do. And so I think we look at it more in those types of categories of guys that stepped up, and there's a lot more than that, but maybe those are the first three that come to mind.
And then just how cool is it to have the alumni that come back, and Von Miller, Mike Evans, and everybody that got to play in that 7-on-7 during halftime?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Yeah, I think one of the things I've tried to do as best I can is try to encourage all of those guys to be around as much as they can, and for some of them it's a challenge. They have their own careers, they have their own families, they have their own lives that they're focusing on. But I just think that there's a lot of really, really successful former Aggies that have been part of this program, and the more that they're around, that they can be viewed as what success is. I think sometimes if you don't have a vision of what success looks like, it's hard to go get it. And so the more those guys are around, the more they can talk to our players, the more our players can learn from them. I think the better all of that is when you're trying to build a really, really successful football program.
Go back behind the lights, Nicole, finish this up.
Coach, you said that you're never happy after spring. Just how do you feel now after your second spring at A&M?
Certainly better than I felt after my first one. And I just said this to the guys in the locker room. I think if you take every team across the country right now, if this is who they are when they go out for their opener, they're probably going to be 0-12, right? It's what you do from this moment until the start of fall camp, through fall camp to the opener, that's really going to determine the kind of season that you can have. And that's where all of the separation is going to happen. And so we got really good work in this spring. I thought we made a lot of progress. We did a lot of the things and accomplished a lot of the things that we wanted to do. But in terms of the off season, it's halftime, right? And so we've got to go out and we've got to have a phenomenal summer. We've got to really, really work and master our scheme, master what we're trying to get done, and come back into fall camp and play football at a significantly higher level. No different than anybody, but we have to play at a significantly higher level if we want to go out and accomplish the goals of this program, and those are lofty goals.
Thanks for your time, Coach.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Thanks for everything.